Good afternoon or good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate the opportunity to stand with Fred this afternoon, and I want to give you a few insights into why I'm so strongly supporting Fred Costello for U.S. Congress. My experience base has me in the Florida House for the last 7 years, and we've accomplished a lot in Florida during that time. 4 of those years were with Fred as a representative as well. And one of the things that I think is misunderstood about Tallahassee is how much we really do get done there. Even though sometimes it's not pretty and sometimes we have a bumpy road, we might have to come back for a 3-day special session or something like that, but we get our work done there. And most of the votes in the Florida House are either unanimous or near unanimous on most of the bills, and then we have our battles on the big bills, and we count the votes and the result obtains, and then we move on to the next issue. And I think the reason why we're successful in Florida, there's a lot of reasons, but I think one of the reasons, one of the most important reasons, is that we're a term-limited legislature. Another important reason is that we have a limitation on our spending ability. We must balance the budget every year. Those two characteristics of the Florida legislature are sorely lacking in Washington, D.C., and I believe are probably the two biggest reasons why we see such conflict and dysfunctionality in the United States Congress. And the other, tied into that term limits plank, is the idea that people that go to Washington, D.C. want to make it a lifetime career. They want to stay there because the privileges and perks and emoluments of office are so attractive and so, I think, overwhelming for most people to go there, that their first and only priority is survival. And so you can't expect them, if they're only interested in survival, to sacrifice themselves to a good policy debate or a vote when it's necessary. So I'm concerned about the future. I think we have a good start with President Trump and the Congress and what they did this past year, especially the tax reform bill. And I do believe that that tax reform bill is going to lead us to robust economic growth, increasing revenues to Washington that will help us in the future. But my concern is that the appetite for big spending in Washington, D.C. is not going to go away because the people that are there want to stay there. Now, it's worse when Democrats run Congress, but it's still acute when Republicans run Congress. So that's why I'm here today, because it's important that we select the right people to go to Washington, those that don't have a long-term career as their goal. And in the case of Fred, I really respect the fact that he's self-limited himself to 4 2-year terms, which is consistent with what the Florida Constitution has in it, even though the U.S. Supreme Court struck that down. But in 1992, the voters of Florida overwhelmingly said we want 8 years and no more for our congressional representatives. Fred is enforcing that in his own case. And I'm confident that Fred, when he gets there and the money starts rolling in from the robust economic growth that President Trump and the Congress have given us with that tax reform bill, that Fred won't be one of the people that says, let's find ways to spend more money because we have more money. I believe Fred will have the discipline and the fortitude and the integrity to reduce the debt burden on this country and eventually get us back to a balanced budget situation. And of course, we have to have that mandate put in the U.S. Constitution as well, and I know Fred supports that. So Fred Costello is the kind of gentleman who, if elected to Congress, or I should say when elected, I hope it's when elected, will make a difference. And we need people like that in Washington. Otherwise, we're going to get the same old thing we're getting all these years. And our debt crisis is real and palpable and will become very acute very soon. So we have to have the right people in place, those who are not going to put careerism over the right decisions. And I'm confident that if Fred was ever given a choice between enlarging his career or making the right decision and maybe even being voted out of office because he stood firm on principle, that Fred will choose the latter each and every time. And I respect him for that, and I support him for the U.S. Congress. Congratulations, Fred, on your decision to run. Godspeed and good luck. Thank you very much.